लगा के रख दीजिए। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी, गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदना ब्रज जन रंजना, यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी, यशोदनंदना ब्रज जन रंजना, यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from the second canto, 8th chapter, titled Questions by King Parikshit, text number 17. Yugani yugamanam cha dharmo yascha yuge yuge avataranucharitam yadascharyatamam harehe. Yugani yugamanam cha धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः। माताजी, युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः। Word to word meaning: Yugani, the different ages; Yugamanam, the duration of each age; Cha, as well as; Dharmaha, the particular occupational duty; Yascha, and which; Yuge Yuge, in each and every yuga or particular age; Avatara, the incarnation; Anucharitam, and the activities of the incarnation; Yat, which; Ascharyatamam, the most wonderful activities; Harehe, of the Supreme Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Purport: Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, although non-different from Him, are emanations from the Supreme. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the great and learned sage Shukadeva Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations, so that the incarnation of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnation of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literatures and confirmed by an acharya like Shukadeva Goswami. The Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. The specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should know that the activities of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly. And association with the Lord directly means purification from material contamination. We have already discussed this point in the previous volume. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यद आश्चर्यतमं हरेः। Please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. So in this series of verses, actually Parikshit Maharaj had requested Shukadeva Goswami to speak about creation and such pastimes, and he responds by quoting the conversation that happened between Narada Muni and Brahmaji. So Brahmaji ends this whole narration by describing the various Leela avatars in brief. But Parikshit Maharaj has subsequent questions, and this whole chapter is Parikshit Maharaj asking various questions which actually acts as the seed for the rest of Bhagavatam actually. So many of these questions are answered throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will do a very quick recap of what has happened in this chapter till now and then see what we can learn. So Parikshit Maharaj, after Shukadeva Goswami narrated about how Brahmaji instructed Narada Muni, Parikshit Maharaj had a very pertinent question. He says, Brahmana chodito Brahman gunakyane agunasya cha yasmai yasmai yata praha narado devadarshanaha etad veditumichami tattvam tattva vidamvara harer adbhuta viryasya kata sumangala loka sumangala. He says that, O Brahmana, yes, Narada Muni was instructed by Brahma, but I am very eager to know what did Narada Muni do after being thus instructed by Brahmaji? To whom all did he preach? How did he preach? Please explain about his preaching exploits. Katayasva Mahabhaga yataham akilatmani Krishne niveshya nissangam manastyakshe kalevaram. Out of his natural Vaishnava humility, Parikshit Maharaj says that please speak Krishna Katha so that I can give up my attachment to my body and things related to body. Now, Parikshit Maharaj never had any such attachments. But out of his natural Vaishnava humility, he feels that I am very attached and I need the shelter of Krishna Katha to give up this attachment. So, and also this shows Parikshit Maharaj's endeavor to remember Krishna. The means of remembrance is Shravanam and Kirtanam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. So Shravanam and Kirtanam leads to Smaranam. And how this happens, he explains. Shrinvata Shraddhaya Nityam grinatascha swacheshtitam kalena nati dirgena bhagavan vishate hridi. If one hears with attention and faith regularly, nityam, grinatascha swacheshtitam, and also accepts it with faith, the activities of the Supreme Lord, kalena na ati dirgena. Swacheshtitam can also mean by one's own endeavor. When one endeavors to hear and assimilate, grinataha, okay, then kalena na ati dirgena bhagavan vishate hridi. Very quickly, the Supreme Lord enters the heart. Even though he is present as Paramatma within the heart, as Paramatma he is neutral. Upadrashta Anumanta. He sees what are your desires and he observes if your karma would allow for the fulfillment of those desires, and he facilitates that fulfillment. Otherwise, he does not personally interfere. But when one engages in the act of Shravanam Kirtanam, then the Lord enters as the Supreme Lord Bhagavan and makes that person get attached to himself. So Shravanam and Kirtanam engenders Smaranam. Pravishta Karnarandrena Swanam Bhava Saroruham Dhunoti Shamalam Krishna Salilasya Sharat. And when Krishna enters the heart through the ear holes, the heart is addressed as Bhava Saroruham. Saroruham means lotus. Bhava indicates the various kinds of relationships that a jiva can have towards Krishna. Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya Rasa. So Bhava Saroruham means the lotus of various sentiments towards the Lord. Pravishta Karnarandrena Swanam Bhava Saroruham, which means Krishna enters into that heart, which is a reservoir of all these emotions. And Dhunoti Shamalam, he enters the heart and washes away all the faults or obstacles towards experiencing those emotions in a pure way, like lust, anger, envy, greed, like that. Dautatma Purushaha Krishna Padamulam na munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantaha Swasharanam Yata. Dautatma Purushaha, one whose heart has thus been cleansed by the process of bhakti, Krishna Padamulam na munchati. He never gives up the lotus feet of Krishna. But for that, the cleansing process has to happen through the process of bhakti. It's not that anyone whose heart is cleansed will never give up the lotus feet of Krishna. Because there are other ways of cleansing the heart. Yamadibir yogapater kama loba hato muhuhu mukunda sevaya yadvat tata atma addana shamyati. There are other ways mentioned in the Shastras like yama, niyama, the process of yoga, jnana, nishkama karma, etc., which all cleanses the heart. But if one's heart is cleansed by those processes, that does not lead to development of attachment to Krishna. Therefore, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Shila, Rupa Goswami says, when does one develop that relationship with Krishna? He says, Bhakti Nirduta Doshanam. He doesn't just say Nirduta Doshanam. He doesn't say in a cleansed heart, in a clean heart, the relationship manifests. He says that heart must be cleansed through the process of bhakti. Bhakti Nirduta Doshanam. Then what happens? Such a person, Krishna Pada Moolam na munchati. He does not give up the lotus feet of Krishna. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantaha Swasharanam Yata. A traveler who has gone out of house for some purpose of his business, if he has had a very troublesome travel, he comes back and decides, I will do something in the village only. No more travels. Whatever I can manage, I will manage my business from here, like that. So this is a very important principle, that once, if the heart has been cleansed by the process of bhakti and one catches hold of the lotus feet of Krishna, that relationship is never destroyed. In Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami says, if the Jiva had knowledge of the Lord, it could not be destroyed. And Nitya Siddha cannot have his knowledge destroyed of the Lord. Even the sadhaka who attains perfection cannot have his knowledge destroyed. So the knowledge of the Lord, if established in the Jiva, should be eternal. So if the Jiva actually comes in touch with Krishna's Samvit and Hladini potency, that relationship is very deep and eternal. So after inspiring Shukadeva Goswami in this way about the process of hearing and how hearing enables remembrance, he starts asking more specific questions. Some of these questions seem quite, you can say, not very appropriate for a person who has just 7 days to live. Okay. So he says, Yad adatu mato brahman deharambosya datu bihi yadrichaya hetunava bhavanto janate yata. So yes, my dear Lord, the spirit soul is completely spiritual. The body is completely material. One is adatu matah. It has no dhatus. And the material body, the other one, is completely made of matter. How did this relationship happen? Yadrichaya hetunava. Did it happen by chance, or is there a specific reason to it? Bhavanto janate yata. You know the answer for this, so can you please explain this in detail? So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary mentions some very important points. He says, having expressed his enthusiasm for hearing about Krishna, which is the first anga of pure bhakti that Parikshit Maharaj truly cherishes. Shri Krishna Shravane Parikshidabhavad Vayasaki Kirtane. That's what is happening here. Right? Parikshit inquires about the subjects to the extent that they may contribute to the accomplishments of the goals of pure and mixed bhakti. So to the extent it will contribute to practice of either pure bhakti or mixed bhakti, whatever are the relevant questions that might contribute to that, he is asking. Why? Because when even a trace of bhakti appears, it should be established without aparad. Otherwise, Bhakti Devi will not show mercy. And one of the most important causes of aparad is improper or incomplete Sambandha Gyan. If the Sambandha Gyan is incomplete, that becomes one of the causes of offenses. If you see in the 10 offenses to the holy name, some of the offenses are caused due to incomplete Sambandha Gyan. The other more deep, more dangerous cause of offenses is disrespect. But there are also some of the offenses which are caused due to improper or incomplete Sambandha Gyan. Like for example, the second offense, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. This is caused due to, or the 8th offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kanda. These are all offenses which are caused due to incomplete or improper Sambandha Gyan. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking these questions so that whether someone is willing to practice Shuddha Bhakti or Mishra Bhakti, pure devotion or mixed devotion, it should be practiced without any offenses. So even though he himself has faith in pure devotional service, he could have asked only questions relevant to his own life, and he would be perfectly justified actually, because he has just 7 days to live, and it is just a personal conversation that is happening between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. He is perfectly justified. But this is the mood of great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. Prayena deva munayo swavimukti kaman maunam charanti vijane na parartha nishtam naitan vihaya kripanan vimumuksha eko Nanyam todasti sharanam brahmato nupashye. So he says, my dear Lord, the various transcendentalists of this world are interested in their own emancipation, their own liberation, for which they go to secluded places and perform their tapasya. I am not interested in that kind of practices. How can I peacefully perform my practice when I see my fellow brothers sitting and suffering? I want emancipation of all of them. And that is possible only by surrendering unto you. Therefore, I am coming to your lotus feet. You please do something. That's what Prahlad Maharaj is asking. Parikshit Maharaj is doing the same. So, wherever even a trace of bhakti appears, it should be established without aparad. Otherwise, Bhakti Devi will not show mercy. So, therefore, he asked these questions. Then he asked many questions like, you see the Supreme Lord, his body was described. You spoke about his hands, legs, and his belly and everything. So, he said, just is the Lord and the Jiva distinguished just by the size of their body, or is there something constitutionally different also? Can you please speak? You spoke about Brahmaji appearing from the navel of the Supreme Lord. Now, humans give rise to human beings, animals give rise to animals. So, if Brahmaji came out of the abdomen of the Supreme Lord, then probably the Supreme Lord must also have a similar body like Brahmaji's body. Is that so? Or is there any more details to it? Like that, he has so many questions. He asks about, can you give me more descriptions about the universal form? You said, there is a Purusha who exists with various limbs being made of the various planetary systems. Is there more details to it? Can you please speak? Can you please speak about the divisions of time? Please speak about the lifespans of the humans, devatas, pitrus. Speak about the various dimensions of time and how different people, by performing different karma, may attain different destinations. Okay. So here, these questions, it is mentioned, are suitable for practitioners of pure bhakti, because by understanding the relentless nature of time, it inspires a sense of urgency in one's practice. And by understanding the nature of karma and the destinations of karma, which are all temporary, one develops detachment towards material endeavors. So therefore, he asked these questions. Then some of these questions, the Acharyas explain, they are relevant for Karma Mishra Bhakti. Some of these questions are relevant for Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Some of them are relevant for Shuddha Bhakti, like that he describes. So that even if there is a trace of Bhakti, it should be performed without any offenses for that purpose. So, and then he asks about, the position of these various planetary systems, the mountains, rivers, etc. Like that. And then he comes to this particular question. He asks about the various yugas, the duration of each yugas, and the various yuga-avataras who appear at that time. And the Acharyas explained, he also actually implies the yuga dharma that they institute during that time. So he's asking about all these questions, all these subject matters. So if you see throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, actually this inquiry is a very integral part of actually going deep into the subject matter. And oftentimes, the inquirer seems to ask questions about which you know for sure that he knows the answer. Okay. So, but still they seem to ask such questions. This is because oftentimes one may know the answer, but one may not have conviction in that answer sufficient. So oftentimes when the inquirer asks a question which is seemingly simple, to which you know for sure that they know the answer, they are not looking for the answer, but what they are looking for is to access the depth of realization that is there in the speaker. So when Srila Prabhupada says, you are not this body, okay, the kind of impact that it creates, it's not that the hearer does not know you're not this body, but when it comes from a realized soul, it has a deeper impact. Okay. So therefore, these kind of transcendental questions, even when it may seem redundant, is actually not redundant, because there is nothing redundant in spiritual life. So in the 10th canto, it is mentioned, Vasudeva Kata Prashna Lokam Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prichakam Shrotrim Tat Pada Salilam Yata. Vasudeva Kata Prashna. So when one questions about the pastimes and characteristics of the Lord, Purusham Strin Punatihi, 3 types of people are purified. Who are they? Vaktaram, Prichakam, Shrotrim. Vakta, the speaker; Prichakam, the inquirer; and Shrotri, the hearer. All 3 kinds of people are purified. Tat Pada Salilam Yata. Tat Pada Salilam can mean the water which has washed the Shaligram, Shila, or the deities. So Purusham Strin Punati, they purify 3 kinds of people. One is those who drink it, and second, those who sprinkle it on their head, and third is those who drink and sprinkle both. Okay. All 3 of them it purifies. Or Tatpada Salilam can refer to Mother Ganga, which purifies the 3 lokas. Okay, the upper, middle, and lower, where it flows. Similarly, Vasudeva Kata Prashna, Purusham Strin Punatihi, Vaktaram Prichakam Shrotrim. And the Acharyas say, in the order in which it is mentioned, it purifies. Which means Vakta gets maximum purification. Prichaka, the inquirer, next. Shrotri, third. This is provided all 3 have the same level of faith. Okay. Because the reason why it is mentioned like that is, one can hear without application, applying without being thoughtful. But one cannot speak without being thoughtful. People, in a moment, the temple hall will be empty, right? And the inquirer also cannot ask a question without being thoughtful. Okay. So there is a kind of force to apply oneself when one is either speaking or inquiring. But there may be cases where the hearer sometimes is hearing with much more faith than the speaker who is speaking. That is possible. This is a generic rule. So generally when such statements are there, it means when all other parameters are equal. When all other parameters are equal, generally the speaker is purified more, then the inquirer, then the hearer. But generally all the other parameters are not equal. So you may always have a hearer who is more eager, actually getting purified more. But the point here is that when the deeper one goes in the discussion of Krishna Katha, more is the purification, faster is the purification. That is the point. That is why if you see in the first 5 of the 64 limbs, Adav Guru Padashraya, taking shelter of the Guru; Vishrambena Guror Seva, serving the Guru with great affection; Shri Krishna Dikshadi Sikshanam, taking Diksha and Shiksha from the Guru; Sadhu Vartmanu Vartmanam, and following the path paved by the Acharyas and the Guru; and 5th is Saddharma Pricha, Saddharma Pricha means to inquire about the real duties of life. Okay. One cannot just say, okay, whatever comes, you know. Inquiry is a very important aspect. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So pariprashna is important. Of course, it should be done with the right mood and attitude. Srila Prabhupada, in one of his purports, he says, Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. So, Narada Muni, literally shook. He didn't just instruct Vyasadeva, he came like a wind and like a tornado, he kind of rotated Vyasadeva 360 degrees and said, now you think, like that. So he says, Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagatstana nirodali sambhava taddi swayam veda bhavams tatapite pradesha matram bhavata pradarshitam. So Narada Muni says, look, whatever I have instructed you, it's not that you don't know. Taddi swayam veda bhavan. Tatapi, but still, pradesha matram bhavata pradarshitam. I have spoken to you little bit because people should not say that Vyasadeva did not accept a guru. Therefore, this principle that Acharyavan Purusho Veda should not be disturbed. Therefore, I am speaking this to you. So therefore, he instructed, not only did he instruct, he corrected him, chastised him, pointed out his mistakes. Of course, this is all a pastime, but this is a very instructive pastime. Bhavata anudita prayam yasho bhagavato amalam yenai vasau na tushyeta manyeta darshanam khilam. He said, whatever you have written till now is inferior. Because you have not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yata dharmadayas charta munivaryanu kirtitaha natata vasudevasya mahima hi anuvarnita. To the extent you have described and glorified dharma, artha, kama, moksha, to that extent you have not glorified Krishna Katha. Like that he chastises, points out his mistakes, and the result is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a result of Vyasadeva being, in one sense, challenged by his spiritual master, Narada Muni. So, we can actually be shaken out of our stupor or our slumber only if there is someone who can challenge our convictions and say, are you sure your understanding is right? Could there be other ways of looking at the same thing? And that challenge or correction definitely comes through the Guru to a person who has surrendered to the Guru. But it can come from the other Vaishnavas also. So, we see in the case of Prithu Maharaj, when he comes to address his citizens, most of whom were already devotees, quite advanced devotees. He speaks this verse, Sabhyaha shrunuta badram vaha sadavo ya ihagataha satsu jigyasubir dharmam avedyam swamanishitam. He says, O Sabhyaha, O assembly of citizens, Sadhavo ya iha agataha. O sadhus who have come here, Bhadramva, may all auspiciousness be upon you. Shrunuta, please listen. I have not come here to instruct you as a king. I have come here for another purpose. He says, Satsu jigyasubir, in the presence of devotees, Satsu, jigyasubihi, those who are inquisitive about knowing the deeper aspects of truth, dharmam avedyam, they should present the principles of truth swamanishitam, after they have carefully deliberated upon that subject matter using their own intelligence. They should present it in an assembly of other knowledgeable Vaishnavas so that they can correct it and bless it. Okay, your understanding is correct. Oh, no, there is a fault here. So, Prithu Maharaj says, yes, whatever I have understood, let me present here. And you devotees, you tell me whether this understanding is correct or not. So, this is important. This reflection is important. So, here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary, he says, since there is devotee association here, the inquisitive should reveal the topics of dharma after considering them carefully, since they cannot come to a conclusion by themselves. There could be some mistakes. Okay, that's why it is mentioned acharyat padamadatte padam swamedaya padam saha brahmacharina padam kala kramena cha. 1/4 is learnt by surrendering to an acharya. Padam swamedaya, and one is expected to utilize one's own intelligence also to try to understand the subject matter. Padam saha brahmacharina. 1/4 comes through the churning that happens with fellow practitioners. Like recently in the Brahmachari WhatsApp group, there has been very last almost 15-20 days, a very powerful discussion that is going on about why did Narsingadev come in half man, half lion incarnation. Lot of churning based on Shastra Yukti, logic and all that. And definitely, Vaktaram, Pritchakam, Shrotrim, Tat Pada Salilam Yata. All three are the observers, the quiet observers like myself, the active inquirers like many brahmacharis, and the vaktas like Nityanand Prabhu and Radhika Vallabh Prabhu. Purusham Strin Punatihi, and lot of nice churning that happens, and it brings us deeper and deeper aspects of not just the truth, but also the means of approaching and understanding the truth, which is hermeneutics. What is a Vaishnava way of trying to understand the conclusions of the Shastras or even words of the Acharyas? So, His Holiness Purnachandra Maharaj, in one of his articles, he writes about the components of education, okay, from a Vaishnava perspective. Okay, so I will read. It's a very, very beautiful article. I will just read a small section of that article. So Maharaj says, now we will look at the components of education and their importance in our discussion of devotion. Devotion is more than just education, but devotion also includes educational principles. When one is truly educated, he cannot be a blind follower, because true education includes more than just a preliminary or superficial level of learning. True spiritual education means deeper levels of learning, levels that include contributing to the knowledge. Whatever we hear need not necessarily automatically become knowledge. So there must be certain endeavor to actually transform that into applicable knowledge. This is particularly true, Maharaj says, when delving in the absolute truth which holds unlimited facets. Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashraya. Prati shloke prati akshare nana artakay. Bhagavatam is compared to Krishna. Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashraya. It is non-different from Krishna. Prati shloke prati akshare nana artakai. In every shloka, in every alphabet, there could be multiple meanings. Considering, reflecting, analyzing with the mind and intelligence comprise a major part, the second level of the process of education. Maharaj writes. The word education comes from the Latin verbal root educare, which means to bring out of or to lead forth. So what is this? He says, this indicates a positive, empowering process that continues after the official lessons are finished. Once the session is over, then the actual education starts. The student is not meant to crawl back into ignorance, but to go forth on his own. Right? Like I remember in our college hostel, in one of the rooms, someone wrote this, this Upanishadic verse, his own version of that Upanishadic verse. Arise, awake, and go to sleep. Like that. So like that. So the student is not meant to crawl back into ignorance, but to go forth on his own. These levels or components of education are described in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and other such literatures. So he says, these Shastras describe three major levels. You all know this, you have heard this. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. So Shravanam is the first level. Then there is, above that there are higher levels. Shravana means hearing from a teacher. Mananam means gaining intellectual insight or understanding by reflecting upon the subject matter. And Nididhyasanam means realization and application in life. Okay. So from proper understanding, proper realization comes. If from improper understanding, improper realizations can also come. Like I'll give an example. I was traveling in train with one of the devotees, and the devotees was, and we were having a conversation, So the devotee was sharing with me that, Prabhu, I have a deep realization over last many years. I said, okay, what is that? And he said, you know what, when I first came to ashram, I was very inspired by this particular devotee. So I really thought my life would be so wonderful if he becomes my friend. So I went and served him very nicely. Okay. And I waited for the next 1 week, 10 days. Some good relationship happened, but after some time, he spoke in such a mean way to me. The relationship broke. Then after a few months, I saw this devotee. And I found, oh, he is such a wonderful devotee. If I befriend him, life in Krishna consciousness would be really good. So I tried to serve him, and I tried to be nice to him. Some relationship did develop, but after some time, he did something very mean, and the relationship broke. Like that, 3-4 examples he gave. And then he said, after all this, I have a deep realization, which is In this material world, irrespective of whether it is with devotees or non-devotees, you cannot have a good relationship with anyone. For that, you will have to wait till you go back home, back to Godhead. Only with Krishna you can have a good relationship. So I have stopped endeavoring to have any good relationship with anyone. Okay. This is realization in one sense, because realization means what? You learn something by repeated occurrence and you get some knowledge out of it. Okay. And that can be incomplete realization, improper realization, whatever. If the knowledge is not perfect, the realization can also be, if the knowledge is semblance of knowledge, the realization is also a semblance of realization. But like that. So he says, the first level of each system describes the primary step of learning, wherein hearing, study, and analysis prevails. Now the second level comprises gaining intellectual understanding and insight by reflection. And at the third level comes assimilation, where the student internalizes the subjects and his skills become second nature. He lives and breathes the subject effortlessly. That is the second level, third level. Then Maharaj says, on the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, we have finally geared ISKCON for the first level. Okay. We have the Bhakti Shastra courses and examinations, and they have become quite popular. This has energized ISKCON with transcendental knowledge, and devotees feel a sense of accomplishment and enlightenment. But Prabhupada wanted his followers to develop other levels. He often held mock debates with his disciples, forcing them to think deeply about the philosophy. So he had one very popular series of debates with Shyam Sundar Prabhu, which came out in the form of dialectic spirituality, spiritualism, like that. So now the second level, that of insight and understanding, requires deeper thought, reflection, and discussion. And Maharaj says, and has not yet been developed in our society. I mean, it's not prevalent. There is a particular nyaya in Sanskrit. It means everyone is holding an umbrella. Some chatrinaha nyaya, something like that. It means most people are holding. There could be exceptions. Some people may not be holding. So like that. So it's not there means it's not prevalent. That's what it means. Insight and understanding mean we do not accept the philosophy blindly, but question it and consider it from many angles of vision. We don't just accept it, but we can question it. Questioning is not doubting it, but seeking clarification. Like, for example, there are many, for example, you take the case of Bharat Maharaj. Okay. Or any case for that matter. Bhagavad Gita says, Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. If you remember me at the time of death, you attain my nature. But at the same time, Krishna also says that Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bayad. Even little bit of advancement, you get, you are at least guaranteed a human life. So now, which principle applies? If someone practices little bhakti and lives up thinking of a deer, will he get a deer body according to the Yamyamvapi principle? Or will he get a human body according to the Antakale Chamam, what is that? Neha Vikramanashosti principle, which he will get, right? This is some apparent contradiction which is there in the scriptures. Okay. So one thing is, both may be right, I don't know. We will figure out later. That is fine. Okay. At least that's a very good starting point. Rather than telling, whatever. So there are so many such things. There may be difference in statements of different acharyas. How do you reconcile? Or same acharya under two different circumstances has spoken two different things. How do you reconcile? So these are things which we can keep on pushing under the rug, In the initial stages, that may be needed. But at some point, we have to bring it out and have a conversation and try to understand the hermeneutical principles which guide how, as Vaishnavas, we deal with these apparent differences. Okay. So, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a conversation with Prakashananda Saraswati, and the discussion was to a large extent on the Vaishnava hermeneutical principles. How do you understand Shastras? How do you understand? And one of the things that he says is, the Shastras should always be understood in their primary sense, Mukhya Vritti, not Gauna Vritti. But oftentimes you see, the Shastras themselves say that this material world is an illusion. But if you see the Vaishnavas explaining that, here illusion means temporary. Okay. Are the Acharyas refuting the Shastras? No. They are illuminating it, contextualizing it. Right? Like someone says that, oh, the light is coming. And if someone else says, oh no, the train is coming. Is that a refutation? No. It is just contextualization, Oh, the train possessing a light is coming. From a distance, you are seeing only the light. Once it comes close, you will realize that it is a train. So, sometimes in discussions, it may look like, someone is contradicting something. But when there is some patience in that discussion, one may understand the deeper hermeneutical rules than just say, okay, whatever the Acharya says is correct. Yes, whatever the Acharya says is correct, but one can also try to understand how it is correct. That is allowed. That is within the Vaishnava hermeneutic boundary. Okay, and that should be done actually. And that's how one develops. So the first level is to understand Shastra, but the next level is to understand Shastra Yukti, the logic of the Shastras. And that is why Srila Rupa Goswami says, Shastre Yuktau cha nipuna, sarvata drida nischayah, prauda shraddho adhikariyaha sabhakta uttamo mata. So Uttamadhikari is one who does not just know what is given in Shastras, but he understands the Yukti, the logic of the Shastras also. That is why Kapila Dev, when he teaches to Devahuti, he talks about various gradations of people. He says, of human beings, the Brahmanas are the topmost. Brahmaneshu api vedagyo. Of the Brahmanas, those who know the Vedas are better. He arthagyo abhyadikas tata. And amongst those who know the Vedas, those who understand the real meaning of it are even deeper, or even better. Arthagyat samshayat chetta. Better than a person who knows the meaning is one who can utilize that knowledge to resolve doubts and contradictions. Tasmad api swakarma krit. And even better is one who is applying that principle in his own life. Like that. So, Maharaj then continues, we will end with this. Maharaj says that each shloka can be seen from many, many angles of vision. So, become practiced in seeing things like this. Prabhupada writes in a letter to Tribhuvanath Prabhu. Then, in one more letter to Satswarup Maharaj, Prabhupada writes, your first job should be to make sure that every one of the devotees in your zone of management is reading regularly our literatures and discussing the subject matter seriously from different angles of seeing, and that they are somehow or other absorbing the knowledge of Krishna conscious philosophy. If they are fully educated in our philosophy, and if they get all of the knowledge and study it from every viewpoint, then very easily they will perform tapasya or renunciation, and that will be their advancement in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada writes. So Maharaj says, logically, if we do not develop the second level, the third level will be beyond our reach. But again, even the second level requires a Brahminical ethos, one of freedom and open inquiry without fear of reprisal, ridicule, or alienation. So when someone is asking, they are not questioning you. They are seeking clarification. They are not questioning your integrity. They are not questioning your understanding. Or even if they are just seeking clarification, and maybe through that clarification, we may even understand that my understanding was not deep enough, and it is good. So rather than being attached to our own understanding, we can slowly become attached to what is the right understanding. So that inquiry is important. So therefore, that second level also requires a Brahminical ethos, one where there is freedom and open inquiry without the fear of reprisal, ridicule, or alienation. So Maharaj says, in my opinion, this is by and large means mostly, but there are definitely exceptions, not available at present in many of our communities. And this is one of the many factors causing members to leave the society. So, okay, I think we will pause here. It's already time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.